Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. In today's tutorial, I am going to use not one, not two, but 6 different techniques to create this art journal page. And I've started this page with this lovely napkin that came from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. It's called Bee Child. And I saw this and it just put a smile on my face, joy, which is why I chose the sentiment that I did. So there are 4 images, and to prepare, I cut them apart like that, and then I rough cut around it. And that allows me to audition it on the page, and I can decide, does it fit this? This is a 7 by 10 art journal page. It's big enough to go on here. If I wanted to do it on a 5 by 7 card or a canvas board like this, that would also fit. And there's a little bit around that allows me to work and develop the background. I'm choosing to do it on the 7 by 10 Canson Mixed Media Art Journal page because there's lots of real estate around it and I can really have fun and play with the background. I've given this a coat of gesso, and that's really key for the first technique that we're going to do. But before that, I want to get some base color down, and I am using cobalt blue, quinacridone magenta, and when you mix them, you get purple. I've also started to add in some white gesso there, but it was muting the colors a little bit. So in the end, I kind of nixed adding the white gesso and came in once it was dry with some bolder, brighter colors. I love when you take 2 colors and you mix them and then you get different tones of the same color and you get a third one. So you have lots of variation. And this right here, we have lots of interest. I know it looks like a hot mess, but we are going to add so many layers that what you see here, the movement, the change in tone, is only going to add to the page. So here's the first technique, and we are going to remove paint through a stencil. And remember, this page was gessoed, and that's key because when you want to remove the paint, you need it to be on kind of a non-porous surface. And I'm just using a baby wipe here and rubbing. Now, this has dried a little bit. The faster you move, the more paint you're going to be able to take off, the easier it is. If it isn't coming off with just the baby wipe or with water, you can spritz a little bit of rubbing alcohol onto a cloth, and that will lift the acrylic paint. This stencil, FYI, this was a collection that I got off of Amazon. It was, if I can find something similar, I will link it in the description box below. So that's the first technique, removing paint through a stencil. Here's the second one. We are going to do some mark making with found objects, things that you have saved out of the recycling bin. This was something that came with a silicone mat, and it's a perfect size circle. I'm dipping this into Prussian blue paint and stamping with it, basically. You can use lids, you can use cardboard, you can use bubble wrap, you can use crunched up saran wrap. Don't think that the only marks that you can make have to come from purchased stamps or stencils, especially when you're starting. Now, I know what my focal image is going to be, but I just wanted to have fun today. I wanted to play with colors, do multiple layers in my background. Now, every time you add another layer, you are pushing back whatever's behind it. Third technique, we are going to stamp with acrylic paint. Now, some people would shudder and say, oh, don't wreck your stamps using acrylic paint. I use all my stamps for mixed media. This is the way I like to use them. I'm putting it on the acrylic paint on with a makeup sponge. Sometimes I brayer it on. You're going to see me doing this technique again with a different stamp. I just like the texture that stamping with acrylic paint gives you. I think it's a little bit bolder than using ink, and I can stamp with every color of paint that I have, and I don't need 20 stamp pads. So here I'm grabbing, I think that's the same one. Made a little bit of a swatch, but because of everything is acrylic paint underneath, I can just take a baby wipe or a cloth and clean it up without damaging what was underneath, which is why I like using acrylic paint for as much of as possible, as opposed to um, color mediums that are water activated. Now, here's the key with if you're using acrylic paint, spray it with your Murphy's oil soap mixture, a couple glugs of Murphy's oil soap, a squirt of dish soap and water, and clean it right away. So here I'm stamping with acrylic paint, or this is white gesso, and I'm just brayering it on to get a nice even coat, and then I'm pressing. This doesn't lie flat. If you stamp with inks, it's just flat. This, because the paint might be thicker in some places, you get that little bit of texture, which I really like that effect. This stamp, as well as the napkin, comes from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. There is a link and a coupon code in the description box below if you want to go check out all the mixed media supplies that you can get, because she does have way more than napkins. This is I chose the swirl to add a lot of um, movement. This is kind of a floral stamp. Because that bee is on a flower, I wanted to put some flowers into the background, but I'm stamping with the magenta. It is very, very subtle. There isn't a lot. Magenta is kind of a more translucent um, paint, so it's not in your face. It's very subtle. Every time you stamp something, you don't necessarily want everything to show up with the same boldness. Sometimes just a hint of something is great. So that was 3 techniques. And look at this background, it's lovely and layered. The 4th technique is stenciling with a stencil brush. And I am putting some black paint on the stencil brush, dabbing it almost dry, and then going through the stencil. I like using the stencil brush when the stencil is small. That's type is very tiny. And if I was trying to use a makeup sponge with it, I find that it would glob through, or you have to press so hard that it ends up globbing and giving you something you don't like. Using the stencil brush works so well. This stencil brush and the one you're going to see later that is smaller both come from the Crafter's Workshop, and they work beautifully. Again, I'm using acrylic paint on them. I spray them with the Murphy's oil soap and clean them. They might stain, but they do come clean. You can get all that paint out of it. So I'm adding different sizes of stamps. Some are big and bold like the swirl. Some are very tiny like this text stenciling that I'm doing right now. I'm adding black and white. Those are good contrasting colors with the background. I'm cleaning that, and there is a close-up of the background. Now here I've decided to stamp with found objects again. mark making. This is just a smaller cap from some color product that I had, and I'm using gold paint. The reason I've chosen to use gold here is there is yellow on that bee child napkin, my focal image, and I wanted to tie the colors that were in the napkin or in the napkin focal to my background. And I'm just adding that circle. Circles are just so lovely on any background. They just add so much. And here I've added texture. So there is the finished background. I love, love, love it. Now I'm peeling off the 2 excess layers off of the napkin. And because if I glue that down onto that dark background, it's just going to come through the white part of the napkin and really distort and wreck my focal image. So to preserve the focal image and the colors in it, I am just going to glue this down onto a piece of scrap copy paper that I've saved from the recycle bin. I'm just putting matte medium down underneath it and then putting a coat to seal it on top. I tend to do a lot of overpainting, which is another technique we're going to get into. This one technically could have been a 7th technique here using decoupage. I'm just putting it in a plastic bag so I can come back later. I'm going to just cut this out. I've sped up this part of the video because we don't need to watch me dry paint and we don't need to watch me cut out everything in real time. I'm getting rid of that little bit of excess blue that was there. I've extended the stem because I want it to be longer. Now I'm just gluing this down with matte gel because it's thicker paper. I tend to go to the gel. If it was just one layer, I would probably use just the fluid matte medium. And again, coating it down, making sure I've got good adhesion. I've played with where it is. I like how the swirls are coming out from it. Now, here is the 5th technique, shading. I am shading using my angle brush. This technique is called floating acrylic. I will, excuse me, link the video where I specifically teach this technique, but it's one you want to learn how to do. You're using acrylic paints, which you can use in any color, but I am using black here. And when you shade around a focal image, it makes it stand out a little bit more from the background. And I use an angle brush here, and I've just gone around my focal image. And then I am going to edge or shade around my page. This frames the page. I do this, I'm sure, 100% of the time. I don't think there's ever a time that I don't shade or edge my page or project. It just, for me, it just has to be done. Now I'm doing some overpainting, which is the last technique, the 6th one that I have here that I've made mention. I am just using white paint, actually white gesso, and I am brightening up the daisy and the bee. I want my focal image to be bright and bold and stand out, especially on this very, very colorful and um, background, busy background. So I am tweaking it. I am enhancing the colors with a wash of acrylic paint or painting over it. I'm adding a little bit more yellow there. I'm kind of just stippling it in on the bead. Same thing with the brown. So I'm matching the colors as close as I can and just over painting. Sometimes I use the paint as is, and sometimes I thin it down. Here I'm just extending the stem. I had added a little bit of a length because I wanted it taller to fit the page that I was putting it on. Just brightening it. And again, this bee child napkin, it just, when I got it in the mail or whatever, I just thought, this is so cute. It is adorable. This would make such a cute card. This is white pearl stencil butter. I wanted the wings to have kind of an iridescent quality, so I'm just kind of painting it over with the white pearl stencil butter from the Crafter's Workshop. I'm thinning it out just a bit off to the side. Now I grabbed a piece of drywall tape and I'm stenciling through drywall tape just to give it a little bit of pattern on the wings. Not much, but just something. And then I thought I liked that so much that I continued with the drywall tape and I stencil some darker yellow on the yellow part of the flower. So again, this could have been the 7th, 8th technique using drywall tape. So I grabbed my Choosing Joy sentiment pack and I searched through it and I found the quote, "Never underestimate the power of joy." And this quote was perfect for this page. I had so much joy in the process, creating that multi-layered background and using that cute, adorable napkin. People say, well, what do you do with this? It doesn't matter what I do with the page. What's important is the joy that I had in creating. I'm just going to do some shading again around my sentiment just to make it stand out. Normally I cut a lot of the words out and just have eliminate a lot of the white, but because this background was so bold and busy, I didn't want to, I thought I'd lose the words if I did that. So there's the finished page. I love it. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found a technique that you've forgotten or something that's new to you. Stay tuned for close-ups of the page. Until next time, go get creative.